In Louisiana, you cannot break a dam. It's against the law. In Arizona, you have to break a dam. Those are two different statutes. They're opposite, in fact. But they have one premise. You know what the premise is? They have one spiritual truth. You can figure this out. The one spiritual truth they both share. You can't do something with water that will hurt your neighbor. If you break the dam in Louisiana, it'll flood your neighbor. You can't do that to them. If you build a dam in Arizona, it'll prevent your neighbor from getting water. You can't do that. The precept never changes. You have to treat your neighbor right. The statute changes from place to place. So what the Bible is going to teach us is this. Precepts are eternal. Statutes are local. So we're going to learn that things like eating shellfish was a local statute. You're not under that law anymore, but you are under the precept. And the precept was honor God with all you do, including your food. That doesn't change. There's an Old Testament law that says if you build a second story in your house, you have to put a railing up. I just want you to know you're not under that law, not the statute. But you are under the precept. What's the precept? You can't build a structure that you know your next door neighbor is going to fall off of and get hurt. The statute changes from place to place. The statutes, according to Paul, were nailed to the cross, Ephesians 2. But the eternal, timeless truths of God, they never change. They're always with us. In fact, the Hebrew writer puts it this way. He says that the law is only a shadow of the good things that are coming, but not the realities themselves. Statutes are shadows of spiritual realities. So, what do we do when we pick up the Old Testament? It's really important, guys. You got to learn how to read the Old Testament. We're headed for hard days. I think in times past, if you don't mind my decanting for a second, in times past you could say, the preacher will take care of all of that. I'm just going to be a good person. By the way, you're really good people. No question of that. You're actually the best people I know. But in hard times, you have to be able to understand how you got to your faith. You can't just say, I've got it. You have to be able to understand how you got there. So let me show you how Christians read the Old Testament. First, we start by uncovering what the Old Testament meant in its historical context. And it's just important to remember that a text can only mean what its author intended it to mean. So if I say, would you go get a gallon of milk, I don't mean, will you tighten your shoes? I meant what I intended. In fact, when we read, all we're doing is constructing a mental image that was intended by the author. And that's part of the problem with the Old Testament. The Old Testament was born in a world that was so foreign to us, so different from ours, that it can be very difficult for us to construct the mental image the Old Testament describes.
Hey, I'm John.
And I'm Abby, and we are the hosts of Boulevard Online.
Hey, thanks for watching this video today. If you enjoyed it, give us a big thumbs up by hitting the subscribe button right down below.
The full message that this clip is from is linked right here, or if you'd like to watch some other videos, you can click right here.
Hey, if you'd like to find out more about North Boulevard, go to northboulevard.com. Until next time, be blessed.
And don't forget to be a blessing.